Our story begins in a place called Haons. It is the place where any strong warrior strives to get to. Anyone who passes the final test of the gate can rule the world as a deity. This passageway was not easy, and it stood a voltage of several million volts. They can only pass a being of divine level. Here we see our hero, who was very happy that he was finally here. He had to pass through this gate, and he would become a god standing on top of the world. His name was Ray. He was the strongest master ruler on Haons. He was undergoing the final trials to become a god. We also see the master's assistant, Enos. He watched as Ray made it to the final gate. But unfortunately, Ray didn't know that his partner was behind him, the one sneaking to the gorge to him. Enos knew that in this state that Ray was in, he was more vulnerable, as he was in a state of self-forgetfulness. So if he attacked him in this state, the chances of success would be high. He did so. He struck Ray right in the back and pierced him with his sword. Enos did this in order to destroy him and become the strongest on Haons. After such a despicable act, our hero bowed on one knee in pain. He didn't expect his partners and servant to do such a thing for glory and greatness. Looking at him, he couldn't believe his partner could do such a thing. He trusted him. Enos turned to our hero and said, "Did you think I would never betray you?" Ray trusted him very much. Apparently, his partner didn't have enough of his assistant master status. Enos grabbed Ray by the neck. He knew his strength was in his innate core, not in his abilities. Enos was sure that Ray was a nobody, and he was making a master of himself. Channeling his energy into his fist, he pierced Ray and struck straight into his chest, telling him to retire, for he would take care of Haons. This blow is what crushed Ray. A hole was left in Ray's body from his blow that was not compatible with life. Enos was very happy with the work he had done, for he had gotten Ray's core, for now Enos would be the master of Haons. Enos considered the core that Ray had gotten, but our hero said in his last breaths that he would be sorry for what he had done. After his words, the clouds rumbled, and a very strong lightning discharge struck straight into Ray's body. Enos covered himself from such a strong light that came from the lightning. He did not realize what was happening. Our hero was almost there. He could have been a god to know everything in advance and take revenge. How angry he was. Is this really my end? Ray thought. He would never forgive this betrayal, he promised himself. He would tear Enos to pieces. Opening his eyes, he realized he was in a completely different place now. He was sitting on the floor in front of the blackboard, a little battered. Look at his hands. He realized he was still alive. In front of him stood the high school student who had beaten him, calling him Khan. He turned to him, saying, "Our hero can't recover from one blow." Grabbing him by his clothes, he lifted him up from the floor, turning to him. He mentioned that he should have minded his own business if he wanted to die so badly. This high school student would help him. Behind them stood a whole class of students who realized that it was best to stay out of Sun's way, and why would he only go to him with no strength or roof on him? Sun decided to give him one last blow. Swinging his fist, he didn't expect Kang to block his blow at all. Holding his fist, he showed how easily he stopped his punch. Kang asked him what he was talking about, and who was he to show off in front of him without any fear. He then easily dislocated his arm, causing his bones to break. Song cried out violently from the pain. He clearly didn't expect this. Kang threw him away from him with one swing of his arm. Song flew off and fell not far from Kang. Everyone standing around watching the scene was very surprised at how Kang was able to take Sun down with a single blow, as he had been the weakest in the school before. Kang turned around and saw the second person who had been beaten up by Sion. That person turned to Kang and told him to just apologize to Sion, because he might be in a lot of trouble. Kang recognized this beaten guy. He was the same Don who was his roommate in the same high school he went to when he was still on Earth. He then realized that he was back to his high school days, but with his former strength. He remembered when he was in high school. His father died unexpectedly and the family went broke. He had to endure beatings and bullying by gangsters. He got lucky and started training and in the future became the master of Heians. If it wasn't for that luck, he would have lived his whole life as a miserable loser. In this world, all people are born with their unique abilities, but not everyone has supernatural power. In this world, there were unique abilities, mana, aura, internal energy, and similar things. They were all divided into 3 categories: controlling water, fire, and lightning, which depended on the peculiarity of each one already. For Kana, the path of training was hard and thorny, and it was very difficult to reach a high level. However, he was lucky enough to be born with a core within him, so he was able to master both healer and warrior techniques with excellent results. Even though on the path to deity, he had made a mistake and suffered because of Inas, he had another chance to become a deity. Kang paused for a moment to feel his aura, but he couldn't feel it, which meant that his core was still sealed. He realized that he needed to unseal his core as soon as possible and restore his energy. Since he had gone back in time, this time he would solve the mystery of his father's death and take revenge on the bastard who stabbed him in the heart with a sword. He longed to become a true god and bring judgment on Anas. He also remembered that Sun had constantly bullied him in the past. He approached the second man they had beaten and held out his hand, urging him not to fear them. Kang thought that Xiong was just right for a warm-up. Our hero turned around and walked towards him. As he approached, he asked him if he would be lying near the board for a long time. Sleep thought he was a jerk and wanted the man to get off of him. But Khan wouldn't back off. He asked, "Did you piss your pants? I wanted to see what you can do. Go ahead and attack." Sung ordered his friends to grab the freak instead of standing there and watching. Kang realized that he was going to attack in a group of one-on-one, so he decided to deal with it one at a time. Even though they didn't know who was going to be the first to attack, they began to squabble. Sun rebuked them that they were idiots. If they didn't want to die, they should quickly deal with that asshole. After saying that, they quickly grabbed a chair each and attacked Khan together. But our hero scattered them one by one. It wasn't hard for him to do so. The last of the attackers decided to quickly apologize and say that he was wrong. But our hero decided to teach everyone a lesson so that once and for all, they would not bother him anymore. Another of the attackers decided to hit himself with a chair so that Kang wouldn't beat him up. Sung looked at what was happening and decided to apologize quickly. He asked not to hit him. He was willing to do whatever Kang wanted. Kang leaned over to him and asked him if he could get the shoe shine service that he himself used all the time. Sung bowed to Kang and said that he would clean his shoes so that not a speck of dust would be left on them. Son began to blow all the dust off his shoes, and our hero said that he would turn a blind eye to everything he had done to him. If he bothers him again, then it will be worse. Sung immediately swore it would never happen again. Kang told him to fuck off if he understood. Afterward, he threw Sung back against the door with one punch. Everyone who had attacked him today realized that he had become very strong and was hiding his strength, even worried that he would decide to take revenge on them for all the abuse. At this moment, June walked into the classroom. She looked at what was going on in this classroom and immediately caught sight of Kana, who had an abrasion on his face. Strongly surprised, she didn't take her eyes off him. Shouting to the whole class, she turned to Sun, saying he was bullying Kana again. She threatened him that if he did it again, she would tell the teacher and call his parents to school, which would be a sight to behold. Sung replied that he didn't get the chance to bully Kang. Our hero got a big laugh out of that one. He immediately remembered how Sung had sworn that he wouldn't touch him again, and he blamed himself a lot for it. After that, his buddies took him under the arms and led him out of the classroom. June handed him some tissues to clean himself up. She asked if Kang was okay. June was the most popular girl in their class. Kang said he was fine. She was always very caring. June wanted him to go to the nurse. But our hero said it was nothing and he was fine. After that, between them feels some tension. Who knows, maybe our hero will be with the most beautiful girl from the class. After that, she asked him to sit down because the teacher would be coming soon. Kang was about to sit down when suddenly he saw a torn textbook on his desk. He immediately realized that it was no wonder they were treating him like this, since he didn't even react to such jokes as a torn textbook. The fat guy, who they also beat up like that, shared the textbook with him. He also asked since when he's been so good at fighting, as if he'd become a completely different person in one. Kang thanked him for the textbook and for his generous words, also told him that from this day forward, no one would pick on him. The teacher came in and told our hero that he couldn't sit still and was having a brawl in the classroom, so the teacher asked him to follow him. Kang noticed that their teacher was always siding with the strong and ruining the lives of the weak. But still, one shouldn't make trouble right after returning. The teacher made it clear to Kang that if they catch him fighting again, they will kick him out of school. After saying that, the teacher left for class. Our hero began to look down on the city. He realized that he hadn't passed the last test on Hayance and had no clues about his father. Our hero wondered what it had been like since his father's death. After the funeral, his mother took him to her relatives and disappeared. And then by chance he started practicing. After all the difficulties, he reached the top and won the Kaons. When he became a master, one day he discovered a clue about his father's death. Before he could figure it all out, he started to prepare for the final test. Then Enos appeared and ruined his whole life with his attack. He was so close to his goal and failed, this time. He will surely find the one responsible for his father's death. To do so, he would have to become much stronger. His musings were interrupted by people entering the school grounds. Among them was a man named Ten. He was a healer. His level was 4 stars. According to our hero's guess, 10 were from the Ha clan. Our hero began to remember what happened in the past, that his father had made an arrangement with another man, that our hero would marry Jun. After his father's death, their family announced that the engagement was broken. This 10 threatened our hero to sign that he agreed to the breakup as long as he was spoken to amicably. Jun and Kang also loved each other, but he could not resist 10's pressure and signed agreeing to break the engagement. However, this was not enough for the Ha clan to keep their reputation. They humiliated and insulted him in front of everyone. Teng said in front of everyone that how dare he lay claim to his sister, for he was a worthless creature, and ordered his friends to beat him until he came to his senses. Ten also told everyone that this is what happens to those who meddle where they shouldn't. And from that day on, everyone began to humiliate him at school. He became an object of ridicule for the whole school. But now that it's reborn with his former strength, he's ready to show the world just how strong he is. Ten ordered his friends to catch Kana, so he wouldn't dare to stutter about any more weddings. But what was his surprise when our hero came to him himself? Kang had come himself, so as not to bother them. Ten, noticing that he had lost his fear, ordered his boys to beat him up. They had our hero surrounded in seconds. The other students began to whisper how Kang had managed to cross the path of such a powerful clan. They dared to see what they would do to him. Ten ordered his friends to beat him up. They didn't think long and immediately pounced on our hero. He had no trouble catching one of the blows right away, and then the second one after that. Kanu didn't like the fact that they liked to teach others when they themselves needed to be taught a lesson. The first 2 our hero pushed with their faces. They obviously didn't expect that. After which he immediately threw them away from him. Ten was dumbfounded by this outcome of the fight. He was angry and did not understand how he had managed to become so strong in a few days. Our hero turned to Ten to attack him and finally end this fight. Ten immediately asked if Kang wanted to confront the Ha clan. Kang explained to Ten that they were the first to start, since he had signed the agreement to break the engagement, although he originally realized that they were used to turning things upside down. The entire crowd of students standing behind him heard this, and rumors began to spread that the Ha clan would never accept a son-in-law like Kang into their family. Ten was furious and asked him to watch his language because he had taken his sister, and there was no agreement between them. He also said that Kang didn't have any proof of it. Kang immediately answered him that he himself had the proof. He also implied that he didn't have the courage to admit it. This made Ten very angry. He ordered him to stop talking nonsense. He told our hero that the way he wants it to be, it won't be the way he wants it to be anyway. Then he ordered his guys to beat him up. So they attacked Khan again, but now all together to give him no chance to win. What was their surprise when it took our hero less than a few seconds to deflect all their blows and knock them out. Ten noticed that this wasn't the same guy he had known before. Our hero reproached him for not even bothering to find out in advance who he was going to bully. How was he going to explain it to his father? Ten didn't like the way our hero was talking to him, so he lunged at him with all his strength to put her in her place. That's exactly what Khan needed. He had deliberately pissed him off so that he would be the first to attack him in front of the whole school. Ten noticed how strong Kong's punch was, so he decided not to attack head-on. He dodged Kana's attack. He didn't understand how a normal person could know such techniques. But our hero didn't give him time to think. He was about to launch another leg kick. Ten managed to dodge such a strong attack, which ended the fight in the same moment. Our hero was waiting for this. He had everything planned. So after the last blow that Ten dodged, he immediately threw a very fast and accurate punch straight to his chest. And on top of that, he kicked him in the face a few times. So now he definitely couldn't dodge it. After this series of blows, he kneeled down and tried to catch his breath. He didn't understand how he, who had reached the 4-star level, couldn't do anything against an ordinary person. How was this even possible? Kang grabbed him and lifted him off the ground. Ten didn't realize who this person was, after all. The previous Kang was the weakest person he knew. Our hero took out an envelope from his pocket, showed it to Ten, and told him to look carefully at who he was, after which, with a sharp throw, he threw it away from him. He flew into the very tree. He still couldn't understand how he could be taken down by a mere human when he has a 4-star level. Lifting the envelope above him and showing it to the whole school, he said that this was the very agreement to break the engagement that he had been forced to sign by force. Proof that he and June were in a relationship. After saying that, he ripped that agreement to shreds. After tearing up this agreement, he threw it straight at Tan. He then told Ten to go to his father and tell him that he was the one who was refusing to get married. Ten was very much pissed off. He vowed not to let this just go away. Rejecting his friends, he wanted them out of here, calling them dirty scum. Everyone at school was shocked at what had happened that day. After such a hard day, our hero came home after school and saw his mom standing in front of him. He could not even imagine that he would see his mother again. When she saw him, she asked him to wash his hands as soon as possible and sit down at the table. But as soon as she noticed his hands, which were all dented and abrasions, she shouted at him what was wrong with his hands and whether he had gotten into a fight with someone again. She told him to be patient if the guys molested him. Why was he so naughty, right? Our hero told her that if he put up with them, they would start looking down on them. Sometimes you have to be able to fight back. His mother told him that he was different from the other kids, and how she could protect him if something happened to him. How would she be able to look into the eyes of his dead father? To which she heard the response that he had put up with it all this time, just like she asked him to. But these bullies and these freaks did not get behind him in any way. On the contrary, they should be confronted so that they would not bully him anymore. The mother took the blame. She thought that it was because of her that he was suffering. Her son reassured her that he was not the weakling he used to be. No one would dare to torment them anymore. He would protect her. But she knew that he had a hard time even getting into school, and she doesn't want any trouble, just wants him to finish school. To which our hero replied that he is his father's son, so a quiet life for him. After all, his father also crossed someone, so he was killed. His mother looked horrified, and she didn't understand how he knew, and who could have told him that. Kang said that he had grown up and wanted to know the details of his father's death. He wanted to avenge him. She told him that her father had asked her before he died not to tell him the details, so he wouldn't follow in his footsteps. She doesn't want to lose her son as well. She asked him not to think about anything and just quietly finish school. Kang realized that there was no way she would agree. First, he had to become stronger to calm her down. She started to justify to her son that it's not that she doesn't trust him. It's just that there are only two of them left in this world. Our hero replied that he knows that, and now he will be the head of the family, so she has nothing to worry about. His mother said that she has faith in him and also asked if his hands hurt. To which our hero replied that it was nothing and he wanted potatoes in gravy very much, for she had not made them for a long time. His mother at first did not understand his words because only yesterday she made potatoes in sauce and he ate it. Well, if you want so much, she will make more. But he didn't remember that and said that since he had eaten it yesterday, he could have some salad today. Then they started dinner and sat down together at the table so that the food would not get cold so quickly. After dinner, our hero lay on the bed and thought that Ten would surely want to take revenge for his shame today. He realized that he needed to prepare for the next such moment. He sat down and began to meditate, his body beginning to fill with energy. After a short meditation, he realized that his body was very weak, and today he was very lucky. With a body like this, he wouldn't be able to last much longer. He took a briefcase full of rocks and started his evening jog. He jogged like this towards morning. He had been jogging all night, and so he began to think that her condition had improved a little. Once again, he sat down to meditate, to check his current condition. After a last short meditation, he realized that his body was much better than it was. He realized that he would soon be able to start training. Picking up his backpack full of rocks, he slung it on his back and continued running. The next day at school, he was accosted by the same overweight boy he had defended. He said that Kang was very good at fighting and that he should take him on as a student. But our hero realized that he couldn't do that. He replied that he didn't even know if he had never tried to teach him, and that he didn't care if he was beaten, so he would just watch it. He pissed him off so much that our hero agreed to do it after all. So he suggested that he should bring his weights with him after dinner and come to the mountain. From today, they would begin to train hard. That very evening, they gathered under the mountain. It was obvious that our hero was tired, but the guy who wanted to train with him strongly said that he was dying and he would not be able to continue the journey. Our hero told him that they hadn't even started yet, and he was already giving up. The guy said that he was wrong and he would agree if Kang went on by himself. After saying that, he took the weights the guy had brought with him and put them on himself. He also said that if you want to get stronger, you have to be willing to work. You can't get anywhere without pain and trials. He turned to the boy and said, "Decide. Either you will continue to live as you are now, or you will try to overcome yourself." After which he began to run on. The boy was touched by his words and realized that he had to overcome himself to become as strong as Kang. But the thing was, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't catch up with him. Our hero was curious to see how much stronger he was after a week of training. So he threw off his weights and began to look around him. He looked at the rock in front of him and realized that he was giving his strength too much time to rest. This would not do. Looking at this stone, he realized that it would be suitable for him to test his powers. Concentrating his strength in his fist, he decided to strike and struck straight into the center of the huge stone. Leaving a hole in the stone, he realized that training was much faster in this life. He also realized that it was time to start his spiritual training. The guy was shocked by what he saw. He didn't know that Kang was that strong. Time passed, the night passed, but our hero started his spiritual training and amazed the guy sitting next to him. After all, next to him, golden rays of energy were visible, which emanated from our hero. The guy wiping his eyes could not believe that it was the same guy who was a couple weeks ago. He was 1,000 times stronger than then, and it had only been a couple weeks. Our hero realized that he needed physical conditioning to get his level up. According to his estimation, he had 1 star, and all of his techniques were 2nd star. He hoped that the Ha clan wouldn't send some master for beating up a schoolboy. The boy turned to Khan, saying that he was starting to glow and maybe he had picked up something on this mountain. But our hero said he was talking nonsense, so he suggested he go back down the mountain. There was no way the boy could keep up with Khan, even as they walked back down the mountain. The next day, he had dinner with his mom, and she told him that she would go to work today. And our hero suggested that she stop working at home as a laborer, because he would be the head of the family now. But she told him not to worry about money and concentrate on his studies, after which she went to work. Kanu had to do something, because he didn't want his mother to work and waste her precious health on work. He searched through his things for something he had hidden earlier and found it. When he opened the box, he saw that everything was just as it was then. He immediately took out the paper, and then the book itself. It was very badly wrinkled. It was obvious that it had been used for a long time. When he opened the book, he saw all the same drawings he had practiced on before. He realized that this would be enough. With this instruction, he could lure the real killer of his father. His mother came in after work and saw that he had washed all the dishes, even though she had told him not to. Afterward, she saw him engrossed in something reading. She realized that her son had grown up quite seriously, though she didn't want to admit it. He was doing well, just as his father had wanted. Kang realized that he had to be very careful, as he might be hunted too. He would have to build up his skills first. The next day, he went to look for a martial arts section. After arriving at the building where various martial arts classes were held, he immediately went inside. There was a guy who initially did not realize who was standing in front of him, but as soon as he raised his eyes to our hero, he immediately asked how he knew about this place. Kang approached him and addressed him as his uncle. He also asked if he remembered him, to which he received a reply from his uncle that of course he remembered, and he had changed a lot during the time he had been away. Kana immediately remembered his uncle buying him candy when he was friends with her father. The uncle remembered all that too, and asked how he was doing with his mother. Kang replied that they were fine, and he had come to ask something about his father. The uncle replied that he didn't know much about his father, and then he left to get something to drink. Our hero got the feeling that he knew something, but didn't want to talk about it. He probably had a hard time with it too. Just as the coach was leaving, his students came into the room and turned to our hero, calling him baby, for him to call the coach. Kang realized that the coach had changed his last name, wondering why. These guys didn't behave very well, calling the stranger by that nickname. The main of them immediately noticed how our hero spoke, and answered him that there are no kids here except for our hero. At this moment, his uncle runs into the room, turns to this guy, calling him Hyun. He did not expect him to come personally. The uncle began to justify that recently there are very few students. Things are not going well. Could not he give a few more days? But this Young said that since he didn't have any money, then he'd have to tear the place down, so his guys started tearing the place down. The uncle asked him not to do that and to give him just a week to find the money, and asked him to put in a good word with the chairman. Hyung told him that he should have looked for the money earlier instead of begging him for a line, and hit him on the leg, causing the uncle to fall down, holding his knee. Kang turned to his uncle whether he was all right. He was told to stay out of it and go home. But our hero didn't think long and immediately turned to Hyung and asked him what he was doing here. Hyung reacted harshly, saying that some puppy who has milk on his lips has not dried up. Let him not interfere with the adult uncles. Our hero, after such words, instantly took him by the neck and pressed him against the wall. Hyun was shocked at his strength and speed, how he was able to grab him so tightly and lifted him above the ground to the wall. His uncle remarked that it was impossible for an ordinary person to achieve such speed. Our hero ordered him to keep still, or his neck might break. Hyun tried in a hoarse voice to order him to let him go. Kang answered him, "What if he doesn't want to? He did make that fight first after all." Uncle asked him to stop it because how can he deal with the consequences of this fight later? Our heroes were interested in the uncle's speech, with the consequences. Such freaks as these guys he is ready to stuff into a truck and take them to the woods, and he is not scared of anything in this at all. Hyun asked his guys in an even quieter voice whether they would further watch this and whether they would help him. You immediately realized it and climbed into the fight with sticks on our hero. The uncle realized that now they would both be beaten, and there was no way to stop it. Our hero immediately pushed his uncle away. He swung and threw Hyun straight at the attackers, disabling one of the attackers. But there were still two more who were rapidly heading towards our hero. He also managed to notice them in time, grabbed one of them by the bat, and gave a blow to the second one in the stomach. Then he snatched the bat from one of the attackers and hit him in the face that very second. Our hero noticed that this was all they were capable of, and they called themselves fighters. After throwing a couple more away from him, he was faced with this picture, all of them lying on the floor unconscious. Hyung asked who he was, and since he thought he could get away with it, he was sorely mistaken. Kang replied that this wasn't the best place to vent his anger. He'd better come to Kwanhee High School. Let him say he's looking for Sion. Everyone knows him. Hyun said he filled him in, and he'll regret getting involved in this case. Our hero gave him the middle finger and said he'd be waiting for him there, after which the whole gang instantly ran away from there. The uncle said to Khan, "Why did he come in? He didn't ask him to come in." Kang told him, "These are just kids who haven't even reached a level. It is no problem for you to put them down. Why did you just tolerate it?" Uncle was shocked. He didn't understand how he knew about the levels. He thought his father had told him. Our hero answered him that his father never told him anything, but he came to ask his uncle how his father died. They were close friends. He got an answer from his uncle that he shouldn't ask because he didn't know anything, and asked him not to come here anymore. Our hero asked directly, "Is it related to his father's death that his uncle changed his name and became a martial arts trainer? Couldn't the uncle have stood up to those who did this?" His uncle told him that he didn't know what he was talking about and asked him to leave because his students were coming soon. Kang thought for a moment and realized that there would be no talking to his uncle. Since the uncle didn't want to talk, then they decided to assume that nothing had happened today. His uncle answered him that it was better to live and pretend that nothing had happened, which is exactly how it had been so far. Our hero said that as soon as he thinks that his father was killed, everything inside him turns upside down. He promised that he would try not to hurt his uncle, but he would definitely not give up either. His uncle turned to him, but abruptly changed his mind about saying anything, so he made the decision to leave. Uncle realized that if his father was alive, he would definitely not want our hero to get involved in this fight. His uncle walked into his room and headed to his nightstand, where a box lay. As he picked it up, he realized that he wanted to live a quiet life, but the people around him kept getting in the way. Kang was walking along the dais and pondered over his father's death and concluded that there seemed to be some very large forces involved in his death. At the moment, his level wasn't enough for revenge, but he sort of remembered another one of his uncles. Also, memories came flooding back of when he was humiliated at school. At this point, he almost died from school bullying. A certain Uncle Quack stood up for him. The boys asked him to go where he was going and not to interfere, but the man told him he'd better listen to him while he talked to him nicely. He beat those assholes up and hung them by their feet from a tree. Then he asked if our hero was okay. Then he said he'd show him a few tricks to stop him from insulting himself. Kang thought that maybe he looked so pathetic that the uncle decided to show him a few tricks. He introduced him to martial arts, and after that Uncle failed to handle the power and couldn't advance to the next level, resulting in his death even though he was just practicing healing techniques. Our hero remembered that it was around the same time where he was now. All he had to do was find him. He walked through the woods looking for this uncle, realizing that somewhere in these parts he had definitely seen him. But what was his surprise when this uncle turned to him, he noticed our hero walking around in circles, and assumed that he was looking for him. Khan was so relieved that the man was alive and okay. He was very happy to see the man again. The old man wondered how he could know him, for the old man himself did not know Khan yet. To Khan, he was the best teacher. He is the most important person to him after his family. Our hero said that he had come to him at the request of a man. The old man wondered who could ask him such a request, to which our hero replied that he was his longtime friend and he had a 12-star test to pass. So that friend asked him to help the old man. The old man wondered what kind of friend this man was, and he also wondered if our hero could handle it. Kang knew his strength. In the past, he had watched him all the time while the old man was being tested. The old man hoped the man wasn't up to no mischief. Our hero replied that he would rather crash on the rocks and die than plot something bad against him, because it would be no problem for the old man to kill some little guy. The old man remarked that this was the right thinking, and it would not be easy to set a trap for him. The old man inquired about our hero's name, but his speech was interrupted by a sudden pain. Kang asked him to start by sitting down. Afterwards, our hero asked for acupuncture. He took the needles from his pocket and opened them. The old man was greatly surprised at what he was going to do. Our hero replied that a person practicing healing techniques must be tested with medicine, and he will not harm him. Asked him to trust him. The old man called himself a wandering ascetic. He doesn't even have any friends. And suddenly some stranger appears and wants to help him. Kang told him that if he didn't, the energy could change its flow and get out of control. Even if he told him who he was, he still wouldn't believe him. After saying that, he got down to business. The old man hoped he wasn't some charlatan. Our hero started piercing his body with one needle after another. The old man noticed that this method looked very familiar, so he asked him who taught him such a healing technique. Kang asked him if he would believe him if he said that he learned it from himself. The old man did not understand what this young man was saying. Our hero asked the old man to calm down and focus on the energy, because he wasn't going to hurt the old man. The old man realized that he had a good ability, and he was also familiar with his unique acupuncture technique. Kang asked him to hurry up and get started, because the thunder would soon come. Immediately, the old man began to focus on his energy. Kang watched him to make sure he was okay, and after a couple minutes, the thunder started. And then the thunder came. It hit with very strong lightning discharges. It was hard for our hero to watch from such strong flashes. He realized that this test is stronger than in his previous life. Good thing it started in time. The lightning bolts continued to strike until the old man opened his eyes, but as soon as his eyes opened, he saw Kana in front of him, who was looking forward to completing the level pumping. The old man thanked him for helping him level up. He was ready to go to the next level in just 2 days. Kang was glad to hear that. Our hero told him that he managed to get by this time, but at the next level he should use martial arts. It will help him to overcome trials more easily in the future. The old man asked him if he meant that he should use both techniques. Kang confirmed that was the way to do it. The old man asked if he knew how difficult it was. The old man replied that with his low level of martial arts, he wouldn't last long. Let him trust him. The old man told him that the man with 1 star talks too much. However, he does not see him as evil intentions, so he will believe him. Grabbing his hand tighter, his hand began to electrocute. Kang didn't realize what he was doing at first, but the old man decided to thank him for his help. Kang thanked him for helping him in his endeavors. The old man asked him to try to control the energy, and our hero concentrated on cultivating the energy. He was very much surprised when he realized how much his level had risen. After telling the old man that his level had risen by 2 steps, he remembered how in the past he could barely reach even 1 level, but now with the use of 2 techniques at the same time, his rate of level rise had increased. After that, our hero kneeled before the old man and asked him to become his teacher to teach him the best of everything. The old man kneeled down to Khan and said that it was unlikely that he would be able to teach him anything because he would probably leave this world soon. But our hero answered him that even with such a short meeting, he was already able to learn a lot. Even though the old man did not understand what he was talking about, he said that if fate permitted, they would meet again someday. Kang would look forward to that meeting with anticipation. He got more than he expected this day. His mother was probably already waiting for him at home, so he should hurry up. But his thoughts were interrupted by strange sounds from behind the impenetrable bushes. It felt as if someone was trying to start a mischief there. He heard a familiar voice, June's voice. Behind those bushes were two guys who obviously wanted to do bad things to this cute girl. One of them was telling her not to stop, because crying and screaming was even more interesting to them. June offered them money just to get them off her back. But if she knew what they really wanted in such pitch darkness, one of the freaks grabbed her leg and told her they didn't want any money, they wanted something much more expensive than money. It was a good thing our hero wasn't too far away already, asking them who they were. June was glad to have someone to help her in this situation, because the evening could have ended like a bad dream. These assholes were furious at this insolent turn of events. They wanted our hero not to interfere and just go his way. But this ghoul did not have time to finish his speech, as our hero prescribed to him the acquaintance with his leg, from which he immediately realized who he was dealing with, and immediately after this feint, he instantly approached the second offender, who only had time to look at how his friends were finished off. Khan gave the kid a choice: go to jail or die right here. But right after a moment, he stomped him to the ground without giving him a chance to think. He beat those assholes so badly that they'd never have another thought of similar abuse of the female sex again. The guys realized that they would probably die here, so they had only one way out, but they didn't have time to escape. Our hero took off their jackets and thought of a much better way to teach them a lesson. He tied them up, beaten near a tree, and dialed the police to come to the address and take the perverts away. Afterwards, he immediately rushed to the girl and asked her if she was okay and if she could get to her feet. She was very grateful to him for his help. But our hero noticed that she was hurt, so he asked her to put at least his jacket on her, because it was already dark and chilly. She tearfully took his jacket and didn't even hope to be helped on this night. She tried to stand up, but she seemed to twist her leg, so she asked him to help her. Our hero held her up so she wouldn't fall and helped her up. Her legs were still shaking, so she couldn't stand up properly, let alone walk. She was in pain, so she couldn't keep walking. She asked to sit down, at least to rest for a couple minutes. Khan looked at her leg and said he would try to help, but it would hurt a little. She would have to be patient. He then put his arm around her leg and did the most incredible thing. She was in a lot more pain from this than just moving around, but it was worth it. Our hero turned to her to try to take a step. She thought at first, how could she do that if she was likely to fall to the ground again, but she was wrong. She got to her feet and took a couple steps. The smile on her face said only one thing, that the pain was gone, as if it never happened. She said that her leg no longer hurt, also praised the good ability of our hero. Khan was embarrassed and replied that he was glad to help her, and since everything was fine now, they could continue on their way. She asked to walk her to the city center, as she would be scared here alone. Kang agreed to help June, so they set off from the forest straight to the center of the city. After a while, they approached the local diner. June came up with a brilliant idea. She said that she often comes here and there are awesome kebabs, so she suggested to have a snack. Our hero wondered how it is that her home is not yet looking for her, especially almost got into trouble, so he decided to refuse, saying that it's late. She asked him not to be shy because she just wanted to thank him for his help, and to ask something else. Our hero decided to agree just in case she needed some more help. They sat down at a vacant table, and she decided to remember the day Sun had bullied him. Our hero listened to her quietly. She told him that she was disgusted to see their behavior, and now because of his abilities he wouldn't dare touch him. Kang decided not to procrastinate long and asked what she had decided to ask him. She wanted to ask her not to tell anyone about today's incident. Kang let her know that no one would know about it. She was glad at his words and asked to eat the kebab while it was still hot. Kang thanked her for the kebab, and they started eating it while it was still hot. Jun was curious at one point if he was really engaged to the daughter of the Ha clan. Our hero looked at her. From his look, she assumed that he didn't want to talk about it. Kang told her that they had indeed arranged a wedding, and memories came over him of how they used to go out and have fun together as kids. How they drew that when they grew up they would live together and even have a dog. As a child, he asked her if she would marry him when she became an adult. But she tearfully replied that she would marry him if she was alive by then, because her health was poor. Our hero promised to cure her when he had strength enough. She was very happy at his words and believed in him with all her heart. They promised each other that she would be cured and marry our hero. Kang told her that she didn't give him up, but she doesn't have the strength to go against her family, and their relationship is most likely over. Jun remarked that he must have a lot of good memories after all. Kang agreed with that. The next day at Ha's family home, Yeon expressed her resentment to her father about breaking the engagement because they didn't talk to her beforehand. She emphasized the fact that it was a strong insult to Kang. Her father wasn't happy to hear that about some guy. After all, it was all done for her own good. Yeon said that her father was talking nonsense because he was trying to strengthen the family's position through this marriage without even asking her opinion. After making such a strong statement, he jumped up from his chair and slapped his daughter, ordering her to shut her mouth. She had no intention of breaking off her engagement to Kang, so she was going to go and tell him everything. But her father called her a cunt and ordered her to stay at the estate. Father didn't he like the outcome of the dialogue. He nervously slapped the table and called our hero's name. It was now a pain in the ass for him. The next day they gathered for gym class. As expected, Sun was not enough, so he went to see our hero. They came face to face. The tension in the air was rising. The other students realized that Song had decided to hit on our hero again. Kang immediately asked what was the matter. Had he not gotten enough last time? Sung told him that one fight wasn't enough, and that they should meet on different terms. Kang was curious as to what conditions he was going to meet under. Sung said that if he defeated him in the stadium in at least one sport, he would promise to never touch him again. Kang put up a counteroffer. If Seong loses to him, he will have to kneel down every time he meets our hero. Sung didn't like that kind of impertinence, so he said that if Kang lost, he would have to call him Hyung Nim in front of the whole school. Kang accepted the bet and asked him to get his knees ready. After that, they decided to start their competition. June knew that Sung was in the sports section. Will our hero be able to handle him? Kang's chubby friend replied to her that Kang wasn't the type to lose. Let her wait for the results. June realized that it would be good for our hero to win. After all, there was already a guy watching him from the balcony. It was Lee Yoon, the main bully at Gwangwi High School. His friends had informed him that he was a pretty good fighter, so it wouldn't be unreasonable to watch him. And so they set off to finally get a look at his abilities. Sung told Kan that his strong point was running 3,000 meters, and if he was scared, he'd better tell him right away. To which our hero replied to him that so be it, he would give him a head start of 1 lap. Sung thought that his victory was already in his pocket, so he asked Kang not to regret his defeat. They got ready and the shot was fired. Everyone standing up ran forward except for Kang and Sung. Our hero gave the opportunity to run first to Sun, so to speak. He gives him a favor. Sun didn't like it. He felt weak because of his indulgence, but still ran after the others, and our hero waited for him to run 1 lap. And this is the moment when Sun is already approaching our hero. As he ran past him, he gave him the middle finger and told him to get ready to call him Hyung Nim. But he was abruptly interrupted by a swift rush of wind, as if a car was speeding by him. But looking closer, he realized that it was Kang. He ran so fast that Sung had not seen such fast people before. Kang's friend ran past the puzzled Sung, asked him, had he still not realized what Kang was capable of? Sung was even shocked at the fat man's speed after all. He too had learned to run very fast in a couple of days. Our hero ran to the starting line and counted the time for Sung to run. Surprisingly, Kang was not even out of breath. That's certainly not true of Sung, who could barely make it to the start and couldn't stop panting so hard. He thought Kang had missed 1 or even 2 laps. But the coach checked all the records. Kang had definitely run the right amount. The coach had never seen such a fast student before. Sun still couldn't accept his loss after all. Our hero leaned over to him and asked if he still wanted to compete. Sun didn't like the way our hero was purposely bullying him. But Kang didn't care about that. But the fact that Sung would bow every time he saw our hero, that would put Sung in his place. As much as he didn't want to, that was the condition, even though Seong didn't like it very much. Kang decided to remind him of the terms, and for a better reminder, he offered to punch him a couple times. Sung was embarrassed in front of the whole school, but he promised himself to avenge himself for such insolence, even though he had suggested the competition himself. The next day at school, a fat guy greeted our hero. He told him that Sun had a grudge against our hero and that some bandits were looking for him in front of the school. He told him to stay at the school. But our hero doesn't pay attention to such trivialities. The guy warned that this is not a joke, with bandits can be much more serious. But Kang calmed him down, saying that he will cope with everything the guy offered to go together in case he could also help our hero, for which he heard Kang thanking him, but he answered him that that's what friends are for. After these words, our hero immediately remembered how he was pierced with a sword by his friend. He wondered if he should trust anyone now. The guy saw Kang's hesitation and interrupted his memories. Kang suggested that he go to the cafeteria, which they did, and afterward they went for a walk near the school. But they didn't get far, as bandits appeared in front of them, who immediately asked which one of them was Khan, although it was already clear to them. They were surrounded on all sides. The bandits were very many. Kang's friend didn't know what to do, for by his conservative estimate, there were about 30 bandits. Our hero said that his name was Kang, and also asked if Song had sent them. But the bandit told him that he was too bold, and it was none of his business who sent them, for he would not escape them anyway. He ordered his bandits to start beating the guy. But our hero only took a bite of ice cream and hit this worthless man because even dogs are not touched when they eat. Has he not been taught morality? The bandit didn't expect such a blow, so he ordered everyone to attack him in order to end it quickly. They all rushed at our hero, and he took off his jacket to show them how it could become a weapon in his hands. With a single swing of the twisted jacket, he took 2 of the bandits out of the fight at once. But these guys had prepared themselves and brought swords and bats with them. Kang caught them in such simple attacks and knocked their weapons out of their hands. Who would have thought that one jacket would be enough to disarm a bandit with a machete? After this, the bandits slightly wondered whether they need this fight, our hero warned them. If they are tired of living, let them attack. But the main one of them encouraged his thugs, saying that these guys are only 2. Why are they afraid? It's just worth attacking a crowd, which they agreed to, and attacked our hero from all sides. That day, from that alleyway came the screams of bandits and strong sounds of fighting. But it was not heard for a long time, because just a couple minutes later, all the bandits were lying on the ground, and certainly did not want to get up. Kang walked over to their leader and put his foot to his face, asking if he was tired of fighting. The bandit replied that he should have recognized his abilities right away, calling him Hyung-nim. He apologized to our hero, saying he wouldn't go near him now. Kang ordered him to go and tell Sun that he didn't have the strength to compete with our hero. The bandit offered his service to our hero, that he and his guys would always help if Kang wanted. The guy was shocked how Kang managed to get into a fight once, but suddenly he had 30 men at his disposal. Our hero replied that he was not interested in mentoring bandits, but the main bandit replied that his name was Kim, and he was very eager to serve Khan. Our hero was not interested and asked Don that they should leave here. There is nothing to stand here. But Don couldn't do that. Kim begged, giving this guy a word with Kang. At this moment, Song was watching. He didn't understand when Kang was able to achieve such success, how he was able to become so strong. Perhaps he had been pretending to be weak all this time. He realized that since he couldn't deal with the bandits, it was unlikely that he would find another way to do it. He was about to leave when the guys from his school appeared in front of him. It was Li Yun, who obviously wanted to say something to Song. Sung got nervous. Why did Li-yun suddenly need him? His clan was rumored to have powerful skills. Even the principal doesn't touch him. Song asked what business he might have with him. Li-yun merely handed him a piece of paper and asked him to give it to Kong. Sung was very happy because he realized that Kong had hurt Li-yun too, so now he was definitely dead. After handing over the piece of paper, he told Sung to get lost, which he successfully did. Although he was really pissed off that he treated him like a courier, but since it could help him teach Kang a lesson, he was willing to be patient. Sleep left, and Li-yun ordered his guys to pack up and take not the weak ones with them. After all, Kang is a strong guy. Li-yun ordered them to grab Kang and cut off his right hand so he would realize who he was up against. The next day, Sung came to class and went straight to our hero. Kang thought the man had come to bow to him, as the wager said, but the man had no intention of doing so. Dawn was so eager to see the bow, but alas, it did not happen. Sung even showed disrespect to Kang, saying he wasn't even going to bow. Sung threw a piece of paper on his desk and said that Li-yun asked him to give it to him. He didn't know what Kang had done, but according to Sung, he should prepare to transfer to another school, and at the same time make an insurance, because he and his mother definitely don't have enough money for medical treatment. Our hero looked at Sung menacingly and asked if he had said everything, to which Sung was a little scared, but said, "Let's see if you can act like that in front of Li-yun," and left the classroom. Jun intervened and said, "Why would Li-yun send you something like that?" She wanted to go and deal with him herself. Our hero took her hand and stopped her, asked if she knew him, and what could she do to him. She confessed to him that Li-yun had confessed his feelings to her earlier and asked if it was because of Kana that she blew him off. He must have seen them having dinner together. Our hero told her that it was none of her business, so he would deal with him himself. She started to feel a little worried about Kana, but still agreed with what he said.